Good morning. Morning, you guys. How's your day so far?
Good. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. Trying to figure out where I can stand in my house without the sun in my face. So far, I'm not having a lot of luck.
That's okay. I like the effect.
So Chris, I get to see you on camera. I appreciate that. Fitz 11 Pro Max. Who is that?
That is my husband. We're actually on a job site right now, so we're not going to be able to expose ourselves for probably another 45 minutes.
Okay, but you're together. So
Yeah.
I'm assuming your husband's name is not actually Fitz 11 Pro Max.
No, it's
right?
Clayton.
What?
It's Clayton.
Clayton. Okay, got it. Good morning, Melanie.
Good morning.
So I know Lisa said that she and her husband can't turn their camera on right now. Chris is on camera. Melanie, is there any chance I can get you to turn your camera on?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Otherwise, I feel like I'm talking to a black hole. It's super weird. Hello.
Hello.
I haven't seen you since Little Thistle.
Yeah, that's right.
So, have you guys all been to every session so far? Like, this is number 11. You only have one more to go.
Yes,
Have you been in
all
every
of them.
one? Cool.
We missed a couple because of work, but we rewatched the videos, so kind of.
Super, super. And I guess, that's one cool thing about COVID is now everything is recorded. So we have everything available. How about you, Chris? Have you been at all of them?
Similar to Lisa, I've been to all but two, I think, because of showings or meetings, but I've rewatched the ones that I've missed, so.
Cool, super. So far, tell me, what do you guys think of Ignite?
It's good. I mean, I've learned a lot.
You've been sitting in every other day for however many weeks it takes.
A lot of information.
I think it's a big, great wealth of information, and it's kind of unique and interesting to see all of the different agents that have presented come from different perspectives. So it's fun to hear the differences in their take on different things.
Cool. So if somebody else told you that they were thinking about getting into real estate, first of all, how do you guys feel about Keller Williams? Would you tell them to come to Keller?
Awesome. Absolutely. In
Okay,
fact,
super.
I was doing an open house a couple weekends ago, and a young guy who was in school and was saying that he's thinking about Keller, but he was actually doing some training at another agency and was telling me about it and how he has to be on a team and he has to do this and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no. I'm like, you need to come to Keller Williams. I was like, here's all the great things about them. Here's why you need to come. Here's what you need to do. Like, what you're being told over there sounds a little weird. And he's like, yeah, I really thought about Keller. And I'm like, definitely. I'm like, you need to come talk to somebody again at Keller, and you need to come to Keller. So yeah, no, I would recommend it to anybody.
Super. And you guys would tell people sign up for Ignite?
Yeah. It's a challenge, but I think
you're all here. right?
Yeah.
You're all here, and this is class 11. I mean, your next class is just like the, yay! I mean, you did it, and you know, I mean, I'm not gonna say you're gonna learn anything in that class, right? But I mean, you guys have gone through. This is class 11 after how many weeks that take is? I think is your 4th week in this, so you're still here, and you guys have seen people drop out, right? Like you've seen how many people start and then don't follow through and don't do their stuff and all that cool stuff. So I'm making an assumption that you think it's worth it or you wouldn't be here, but tell me if I'm wrong.
No, it's absolutely worth it. We like I said, we squeeze it in while we're on job sites and whatever. So it's very valuable information.
Sweet. So Lisa, just that's the second time you mentioned being on job sites. What do you and your husband do besides getting into real estate?
We own a cleaning company, and we do all commercial work. So we're out at different businesses, from construction companies to dental clinics to counseling centers and all that good stuff. So
do you clean new construction?
We do. Yep. We have a couple of new constructions actually planned over the next 2 weeks as well. So.
Okay, cool. Very cool. Welcome, Brittany and Tyler. If either or both of you would turn on your camera, I would love that, please. I don't care if you're in your pajamas or your hair is sticking straight up. It really doesn't matter to me. Otherwise, I just really feel like I'm just talking to a black hole. So.
I would turn on a camera, but I don't have one. So.
Oh, that is hard to do then.
Yeah.
Hey, Brittany.
Hello.
Okay, so let's see, I'm gonna get out of this. Now let's see if I can figure out how to do my. So you guys got to give me a little bit of leeway here because I've never taught on Zoom. I actually love teaching, but I'm a very interactive teacher. So I'm used to looking at who's looking at me, watching people's reactions. I was actually dressed completely differently today, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna tell everyone to turn on their camera, and I know you guys haven't had to do that. So I was like, I'm not gonna be all dressed up and have somebody be like, whoa, I'm not gonna ever see me in my pajamas, right? So I mean, if you guys have questions on anything, I can't see you, raise your hand. I think actually if you do this right in front of the camera, it'll put you in front of me, but otherwise feel free to interrupt, feel free to ask questions. If there's anything that I say that doesn't make sense, or if you need me to slow down, or if you need me to repeat, okay, just let me know. And right now I'm still trying to figure out how do I make this my whole screen? Slideshow, is it? Nope. Okay. But now I lost all of you. Dang it. I want to be able to do both. Can you guys see my screen, by the way?
No, we just see you.
Okay, because this is supposed to be sharing already. Let me go back to this. Sorry, technically savvy, I am not. Okay, it already says it is. So you guys aren't seeing me do anything on my screen because it says it's sharing my screen already.
Nope, just see you.
Okay, great. Who here has technology who can tell me why it's not doing what it's supposed to do? And it is recording.
You hit the share screen button.
The share screen is lit up. It's green.
Did you click it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here, I'm going to go to this. Let's change it. How about now?
There you go.
Okay. All right, so I know some of you were in the class with Carrie that I sat in on. I told her I was going to sit in on her class A because I like the way she teaches. B because I hadn't taught via Zoom. So I said, hey, I'm going to sit in on your class. I want to see how this is done via Zoom. She said, this is going to be the blind leading the blind lady. And I thought she was great. I was only there for the first hour, but I know that everything that she went through when she was talking to you guys, you know what? I actually had a point when I started this sentence, the rambling run-on sentence. Sorry, I'm not usually this like scatterbrained. It's kind of freaking me out. I'll be honest, freaking me out teaching you Zoom. But so what we're going to talk about. So Carrie talked about you know, walking you through the purchase agreement. You guys have pretty much been through what has been what are all of your steps, right? Oh, I know. Sorry, this is what she asked you guys who's written a purchase agreement. And several of you had already closed a deal. Some of you were writing your first purchase agreement. Some of you have been through the process at least like one time. So you've taken the steps so far, right? With the lead generating, prospecting, the listing, how to do a listing presentation, how to do a buyer representation, how to write the purchase agreement, all of those things. Today is called Close the Deal. And this is preparing your clients for the close and achieving a successful close, and then making a lasting and winning impression with your clients and other agents. So to give you a little bit of my background, I was 5 years in the mortgage business before I got into real estate. And there was a break or a hiatus in there. I closed my mortgage brokerage in 2008 and did some other things in between. Even went back to working for an engineering firm, and then decided to get my real estate license. I got it in August of 2013. And I knew before I ever got my license that if I ever got my license, that I was going to go to Keller Williams, because Keller was the only real estate company that actually taught you how to run a business. The rest of them taught you sales or sales techniques. They might send you classes for different things. They might have team meetings. At that point in time, and I say still even now, Keller Williams was the only company that taught you how to run a business. And in the mortgage side, I attended a team meeting for, it was Chaz Wilson's team. When Keller Williams was back, it was in an old icky building, like over by John Marshall. And Jason Gorman came down from Woodbury. If you ever get a chance to listen to him talk, just do, because he's just fantastic and super likable. And he sat down at the table and then he said, do you know what the difference between $1 million a year agent, you know, $1 million income a year agent, and the rest of everyone else is? They just do it. There's no magic sauce. There's no magic pill. There's no secret sales class you're going to take that is going to give you the answers. They just do it. They don't like cold calling any more than you do. They don't like having to do their emails and their handwritten letters and the phone calls and all of that. Nobody loves doing that. But the disciplined agents, the ones who just do it, are the ones who become the $1 million producers, right? $1 million income. So just always keep that in mind. They're not special people. They don't know something more than we do. They don't know something more than has ever been taught. They just do it. They just do everything that you have been taught in Ignite. And there might be some things that you hate doing. Frankly, I hate phone calls. I mean, I love to talk on the phone. I can talk on the phone for an hour. I'm talking to my mom. But calling people to talk about business is really hard for me. It's still really hard for me. It is the most effective thing that you can do. It's more effective than email and handwritten notes and text, and I'm really good at all of those other parts. But phone calls, you guys, really seriously, phone calls are the most effective, best thing you can do. So we're going to talk a little bit about that too, which comes into keeping your business. You know, once you get to the point where you're going to close the deal, we're going to talk about keeping your clients and how to stay in touch with them. So let's get started. Did you guys do all of your homework and turn in all of your numbers? Yes, no, maybe? Everyone did what they're supposed to do? Okay, so I'm assuming that I'm going to say that's a yes. Somebody said no, I need some time to do that. So also, I know that you guys didn't do your daily calls when you were with Carrie, and you said that it's been back and forth, kind of like some teachers or instructors have had you do it the day of. Some have said you could do it afterward. I actually have to do my own today, and staying in schedule. So I am gonna have you do your calls or whatever you decide to do. Like I said, calls are the most effective, but just, you know, heads up, we are gonna do that. Okay, so just out of curiosity, how are you guys doing with making your calls and doing your touches, you know, to your spear? How has that been working out for you guys?
I think it's been good. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, for me, the calls have not been the issue. It's more finding the time to do the note cards. That's been the issue. But phone calls, I mean, I'm on a team and we have at least 2 days a week where we sit down for at least an hour, usually 2, and just pound out phone calls. So that's not been an issue for me.
Okay, Chris, whose team are you on? Are you
I'm
on
on
Nick's?
Q. No, I'm on Q's team. Michael
Q,
Quinones.
okay.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, so I've actually been more successful with my notes than my calls. My calls, I'm getting there. It's, you know, like I started with the script and then I tweaked the script to be how I wanted it. And then it was still way too scripty. So I'm getting to a point where like, I'm just calling people, you know, and just talking to them. And kind of abandoning the script. But I think that I needed to get to the point where I knew the script so well that I could just do some natural conversations. But yeah, the notes, I'm killing it. I'm sending out cards left and right and everybody loves it.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point, and something that you bring up. I hate scripts. When I was in the mortgage business, we had to go through I forget even the name of the training, but it's a big name. And we had to do scripts and role playing, and I thought it was the dumbest thing I'd ever seen. You know, I had never been in sales, and it just all sounded so used car salesman stupid to me. I never ever liked it, despite having to do it all the time in the mortgage business. And then, you know, then I got into a different sales area, and then I became a sales manager for a company, and then I was teaching them scripts, having them do scripts. And now, so to your point, you're 100% correct. And what you needed to do is learn the script to be able to go away from the script. So my issue with scripts is they're always too long. I'm a super fast talker, and I I read the whole script and it's a whole page long, and I want to see 2 sentences out of that whole script. There's a reason for the way that they're all set up. I've heard people say before, like Diana Kokoska wrote a lot of those, and we use them in bold. Mike Ferry is actually where the majority of them come from. Company now run by his son, Tom Ferry, and they have been successful throughout the ages, right? In sales. But you'll see, if you ever look on Craigslist and you'll see a listing, somebody tells you to go look at it for sale by owner, and it'll say right on there, no scripts, please. Realtors don't call. Because people know their scripts now. But learning them means if you learn them by rote and you can just say them without having to think about it, and you don't have to read it anymore, and it's just here and it's here, you just have it ingrained. That means that if somebody else comes and talks to you and says something, it will be an automatic response, and it won't sound all salesy and scripty, and then you can veer away from it, and then you can do different things with it. But learning it first is key, really. And that is coming from somebody who is still, I've taken bold 5 times, by the way, and every time that I go and we have to do the script stuff, I hate it. It's like my least favorite part. But it definitely will make you more comfortable talking to people and in front of people and in answering questions. If you learn the scripts, then you can shorten them up afterwards, however you want to. But if you learn them, it's a big deal. So I'm glad that you guys are seeing that they're working. And I personally have gotten always really good feedback from handwritten notes, because nobody gets them, right? I mean, we all know when we look at our mail and we think that we got personal mail, and then you realize they just used a script font when they printed the envelope. It's like, oh, that bummer. But yeah, I think handwritten notes are a big deal because people just don't do them. And even though people are teaching about them all the time, they're all talking about what a big deal they are and everyone should do them, people still just don't do them. So they're a big deal. And if you ever can't think of, so Chris, to your point, it's hard to find the time. Even if you're just doing 5, right? It's hard to find the time and sit down and write a personal note. Think about what you're going to say and how you're going to say it. And your note can just literally be, hey man, I was just thinking about you. Thought I'd drop you a note. How you been? How's business? Let me know if there's anything I can ever help you do in real estate. Give me a call. I mean, it doesn't have to be a well thought out, the best thank you that someone's ever written for their, graduation gift or whatever, or a touching thing that someone's going to keep forever. The fact that you send it, and most people, you're going to read it 5 times typically, right? In your head first, and then you're going to write it down, and then you're going to read it. The person who gets it is not. They're going to read it once, then maybe they'll read it again right before they give you a call or a response. So they're not going to dissect it. They're not going to judge your handwriting or even your grammar, unless they're me, because I'm always silently judging grammar in my head, and they need the t-shirt that says that. So today, you guys, by the time that we're done, you should know everything to expect in the process of once your purchase agreement has been accepted, and then once your deal closes, and what to do after that. But for the most part, what we're going to talk about is everything that happens once your purchase agreement is accepted. So whether you have the listing and then your sellers signed for the offer, or your buyers, you have the buyers and the sellers signed on the offer, and you have a final purchase agreement, right? So we're going to talk about everything that can go wrong, and then how you can mitigate that and how you can make it easier. And some of that you've already talked about, what to talk about ahead of time, and what to tell your buyers and what to explain to them, or to tell your sellers on time frame and stuff like that. So right now, I'm looking at my notes here. So right now, I think that you guys can see, it's 9:24. So I'm gonna go with, we'll say 9:25. We'll say it's 9:25. And you guys can have 20 minutes to make your calls. Chris, if you don't have any problem finding time for phone calls, write your notes right now. Melanie, Brittany, who else did I have on here? Tyler, Lisa, however you guys want to do this, whatever works for you to, whether it's writing your notes, making your phone calls, responding to text, email, but you guys go ahead and take 20 minutes to do that. So we'll be back at 9:45, quarter to 10, and then we'll go through the rest of the class. And I'll give you a break at some point in there, after that too, for about 10 minutes. So, and I will be standing here next to my computer. I'm going to put it on mute so you don't have to listen to me. But if you guys have questions in the meantime, or if there's anything that you want to ask me, you can throw it in the chat box, or you can just shout a question out, because I might not be on the screen, but I'm going to be right here. So, and Tammy is just joining us. Good morning, Tammy.
Good morning, Megan.
How are you?
I am good. How are you?
I am good.
That's
Say, we just went through the beginning of the class stuff, and now we're going to do our phone calls. I also ask that everybody turn their camera on if you can, because I don't like talking to the black hole. So if you're willing to share, and I changed out of my work clothes and I put on this sweatshirt, and I don't care if you're in your pajamas and your hair sticking out all over. It really makes no difference to me. I just like to be able to see people's faces. But for the next 20 minutes, you can go ahead and make your phone calls, write your notes, or whatever you're going to do. And then we're going to come back here at 9:45. I am going to put my phone on mute just so you guys don't have to listen to me call. But if there's something that you have a question about, or you want to know something, I'm going to be right here next to my computer. So feel free to shout out anything, because I will be here to hear you. Okay, is everybody ready to get back to it? Are you all with me? I'm still trying to find a place to stand. It does not have the sun in my face. I'm just not finding it yet.
We're here. We're just about to leave, so we'll be going to our office and we can turn our cameras on for a little while.
Awesome. I can't wait to see your face. So how did your guys' calls go? If you guys are done and can tell me what happened, or if you had success at any appointments or got your notes written.
I got about 4 notes written, so productive.
Very awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. Did you already know who you were going to write them to beforehand?
Yeah, I've had them on a list for a little bit and just haven't forced myself to make the time. So yeah, I knew who I was going to write them to.
Cool. So how do you feel now that you got them done?
A little bit like a weight was lifted because I know it's been sitting on my to-do list for a few days.
Sweet. Good. Good. That is the best way to feel. And not, so when you don't feel like, oh, what a waste of time. And then hopefully you'll really see some good results once you get those in the mail. And sometimes you'll just have somebody, most of the time, people will email you or they'll send you something. Some don't respond at all. And you'll find out later that they were just heart touched and you didn't even know you had an effect on someone. But they'll tell you, long time later that's what you did for them. And then sometimes you get the person who will just call you up and say, hey, I bet you thought you were going to get an email, right? And I just thought it was so cool that you wrote me a note that I'm calling you. So yeah, I hope you get all of that. Even if it's just 4, I hope you get one response that makes you keep doing it, because there's such a big deal. Anybody else?
I used my time to hit up agents for open houses this weekend.
Cool. How have you been doing with open houses?
It's so hit or miss, but I just keep plugging along. I can have some where nobody shows up, and then all of a sudden I can have one where 5 people come through. But
yeah,
even then, half of them already are working with agents and have made other deals that have fallen through. And, so, every once in a while I get a name that might stick, and I, might try to contact somebody and see what's going. But I'm just going to keep doing it. I'm just going to keep doing it until it pans out.
Yeah, super. I love your attitude on that. I know there are some people that have built their entire business on open houses, and I was 100% positive I was going to be one of them. I am not. I don't know what I do wrong at an open house, but I can't even tell you how many open houses I did in my first 2 years. I did not pick up business directly from a specific open house. However, talking about open houses and talking about conversations I had with people and creating conversations around me led to business, and people thinking that I was really, really busy. Because people don't understand that if you're doing an open house, it doesn't have to be your listing, right? Like, you must really be rocking real estate if you're doing 4 open houses in a week. So yeah, just keep doing it. And I'm telling you, whether I looked at it as being a complete and utter waste of time and that I was really unsuccessful at it, I realized later, like, no, remember, because you talked about this to this person who told that person where I talked about whatever the house was, where I was, people would be like, oh, hey, I know you've got that condo listed in Northwest Rochester. My buddy's looking for a place. Can you show it to him? Yeah, So sometimes some of the stuff that we do is really in the long game. Okay, so our next part of class today is get your head in the game. going to say right now, I think your guys' heads are in the game. If they weren't, then you wouldn't be here for class number 11. So part of knowing what to expect is, I can only skip through these or past these, right? Generates. Okay, here we are. Get your head in the game. So you want to make sure that your transactions close on time. You want your clients to have a smooth process, whether they are buyers or sellers, and you want to win future business. So you want to know that you did such a great job, they will buy with you again in the future, which is awesome when you get to the point where you get repeat clients. But that doesn't happen in the first year or two because people just don't buy a house every other year or every year. I mean, some do, but pretty rare. But you want them to tell all their friends and family, and you want them to tell their coworkers. My agent was awesome. Like, this is who you need to go and talk to. This is who you need to see. So we're going to talk about how to ensure those outcomes. Anybody have, just real quickly, do you guys have something that off the top of your head that you can think of to do or not to do? Even if it's just based on what you've heard from friends or family or your own personal experiences, whether it's in real estate or one day when you bought a house or you read something in a Facebook group. But do you know how to ensure the outcomes of closing on time and making sure it's a smooth process and securing future business?
Well, I'd say for me, from personal experience from a house I bought several years ago, I wasn't thinking and I refinanced my car while I was in the middle of the process, and it screwed up all the mortgage and everything. I mean, it ended up getting done on time, but it almost didn't. So, like not refinancing or taking out loans or, switching jobs or something like that in the middle of the process would be ideal.
Right. Luckily, you only refinanced it, right? You didn't go buy a new one. That would have kicked it right out.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, anybody else got anything?
Nick mentioned something in the past section about leaving a lasting impression. He said something about during one transaction, someone was short some money because of a commission, and he just forked it over to him at the end just to leave a good stamp on the transaction, and it helped him in the long run.
So Nick made up a difference to get the deal to close?
He actually didn't have to do it because the agent was going to deal with it, but the agent, as a result of whatever it was that happened, was the one that was like, here, I'm going to fork up my, a part of my commission to make this deal close then. But Nick didn't want to leave a bad taste in that real estate agent's mouth. So he was like, you know what? No, here, like, we'll just, give you your full commission. And then within that same week, that agent came back to him with a investment opportunity, I believe.
Nice. Yeah, I don't recommend giving up your commission as a go-to plan. I don't care how much money you have. It's really not about the money. But we do this for the money, right? I mean, I love real estate. I love my job, but I'm not doing this just because I can't find anything else to do with my time. I'm doing it to make money. And I see way too many realtors who are willing to give up their commission for things that have nothing to do with them, for mistakes that someone else made or that somebody thinks they made, and they just, they'll give up their commission. So I don't think that's a go-to plan, but never take it off the table. Because if you're going to make a concession for a few $100s to still make thousands of dollars commission, and if you don't give a concession, that closing isn't going to happen. Sometimes maybe digging your heels in and being right isn't, who cares? Who cares if you're right? If you're going to give up $5,000, you're going to pay $200. So but keep it as a last resort, and just don't offer it. like don't have that be your go-to of how to placate people or anything like that, because I think once people start doing it, then they don't know how not to, and then the word will spread, and then we're like, well, you know, you did that for Heidi, and you know, Matt said that you did this, and so just be aware of that. And I am not saying that Nick is wrong, because Nick is like, seriously, total businessman. Everything that he does is with a business mindset, and giving up his commission is never his go-to. So if Nick did that, there's a good reason.
Yeah, I think he was just being case sensitive and talking about how he was emphasizing serving people instead of keeping it about yourself.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm sure that you guys have already heard this, and you'll hear this many, 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 many times in any sales training that you go to about, you know, anything is don't get invested in the outcome. And I always thought that that meant the people who just needed their commission so badly that they would do anything to make sure that the deal closed, even if it wasn't the best thing for their client. So I was like, well, that'll never be me, because I'm not money motivated, and I never need a deal that badly to close. But I realized, and I even had a coach tell me one time, it has nothing to do with money. Don't get invested in the outcome. Well, it's not about the money. I mean, what do you mean? I tend to get a feeling, that's how I describe it, and I will tell my clients, I know when we walk into a house that it's your house. I get a feeling with my sellers, this is the one, they're gonna write an offer. Or I'm like, they're gonna write an offer and we're not gonna take it. You know, I don't believe in ESP. I don't, you know, any of that stuff, but I get a gut feel and I go with that. And so being invested in the outcome is also, I was 100% positive one time that the house that my buyers were buying was not for them, because it was a stupid house. That's how I felt about it. The husband didn't love the house. The wife was like, I don't even care, because it's, you know, this is by a lake and da 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 da. And when the deal fell through, I was elated, and I realized that's what they were talking about. Don't get invested in the outcome, because you know what? I wasn't the one buying the house. I don't have to live in the house. I don't have to make the payments on the house. So sometimes, you know, you have a client who walks in and they're like, wow, orange countertops and purple walls. This is like the best house I've ever seen. And, you know, you might be looking at it going, who, what, why? No. No, dude, we get together on Friday, right? And do stuff. And I don't want to come to this house. So just really don't get invested in the outcome. Help your clients to get to the outcome that they're trying to achieve that is best for them. But it's always good to keep in mind. And Nick is very, very good about customer service driven, listening to what other people have to say, listening to what's happening in their life, and what he needs to do to make it work for his clients. Taking care of other agents also is a big deal, and it will always help you in the long run. Okay, so the first part of the real estate sales process is the hard focused work of making connections and achieving agreements. Second part is the wide-eyed, vigilant guardianship of the transaction until it makes its closing. I don't know if you guys have read the book Shift, but right now is a really good time to read that book, because our market is going to shift. We've been in the market we've been in with a shortage of inventory and a complete and total seller's market for quite some time. One thing you know for sure about real estate, you have a seller's market and then a buyer's market, and then in somewhere in the middle, but the pendulum will always go back and forth. So if you haven't read Shift, I recommend that you do. Okay, so making it happen, knowing the process, systems equal success, seize the golden opportunity, get paid. Yay, I love payday. So knowing the process, I don't even know if you guys can see this, but you guys all have a book with this graph or chart or whatever on it, correct? Yes, no, maybe you've got the contract close. So where did I put my pages? Okay. So the first part of knowing the process is just knowing who's involved in the transaction. So usually that's going to be your buyers or sellers, yourself, anyone else that you're partnered with on your side, and the other side's realtor. So if you're the buyer, that you're going to know the seller's realtor. Almost always up front, you're going to know who the other realtor is, because if you're the listing agent, the realtor, the buyer's agent is going to submit the purchase agreement to you. If you're the buyer's agent, you already know who the listing agent is, before you even show the house, because that's all in MLS. So you know about that. Then you have the title companies or real estate attorneys. So, oh, I'm so sorry, you guys. I gotta get my dog. Oh, such a good help. Thanks for letting me know somebody was walking down the street. So you always want to know who the parties are. If you've ever been asked, for those of you who have already completed your first, second, third transactions, and the other realtor said, we'll be closing at such and such company, where will you be closing? In the beginning, I was like, why do you care? Like, why does everybody ask that question? Well, I've learned that I want to know, because if they're going to close with a title company that I don't trust, or that I know doesn't get their stuff done on time, I want to know that ahead of time so that I can warn my clients, and you'll get to know who those are. If you've got a special issue with the property, and then you need to know, do we need an attorney on this deal? Can we just go to a closing agent? Can we work with somebody who's not even in town? Sometimes those work fine, and sometimes they don't. So you just got to know the process. You got to know the parties who are involved. After knowing who the parties are, we get to this contract close process where, you've got the offer, you reject it, accept it, or counteroffer. Once you counteroffer, or you receive a counteroffer, either way, the person, now the ball is in their court. They can accept, reject, or counteroffer that counteroffer. And then once you have an accepted deal, then you go on to all of your inspections. They could be radon tests, they could be a home inspection, they could be, maybe you need it surveyed, maybe you needed the pins found, if you're an egg, you need sewer well tests, whatever. So you get to that inspection part. Inspections get completed, and then you either check them off the list and say, okay, we're good to go, or you got items from those where you go, okay, we need to talk about this, or we're going to ask other parties to do stuff, or you're going to be asked, your party's going to be asked to do stuff. While all of this is going on, you've also already submitted everything to the title company. So they're already working on getting clear title. And it is amazing what will stop someone from buying a house. They will be ready to go, right? And the loan officer didn't find anything on their credit reports, and everything is fine. And suddenly, title company does a title search in their name, and they find a judgment. Judgment may even be paid, but they'll find a person's name and they'll find a judgment. And if you have a judgment against you, it doesn't have to have anything to do with property, but you have to pay that before you can buy property. You also have to pay it before you can sell your property. So just be aware that there are always things that can come up that don't really have anything to do with us. Things that we can't even fix, other than to explain to people, yeah, you're gonna have to take care of that. You're gonna go through the whole loan process and everything, and all kinds of stuff that the lender has to do. So we'll get to there's a checklist here. This is, by the way, this is a great success tip throughout the entire contract to close process. Keep your people informed. And if you pick a day of the week to get back to everyone, and I'm going to tell you right now, Monday is not the best day, right? Because that means most people, stuff happens over the weekend. They think of things on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, and they try to get a hold of you. And if you're going to wait till Monday to touch base with them, let them know always they can contact you however they want to, and they can always ask questions. But if you pick a day like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, where you are always going to reach out to every client you have, and sometimes literally I send an email that says, hey, just letting you know, I have nothing to report, but everything is moving right along. Title's getting done. This is getting done. This is getting, whatever. You don't have anything to tell them, but you just tell them everything is fine. That's a really big deal. Because if they don't hear from you, they'll start to wonder, and then they panic, and they might even try to tell themselves the same thing as a doctor. No news is good news, but they don't really know. They're like, I don't know. Is my realtor still alive? I don't even know. So stay in touch through the process. Attend your closings. Some states that's required. It's not required here. I always recommend that you go to your closing. I went to the closing when I was a loan officer. I'm always amazed at how many don't. I'm always amazed at how many realtors don't go to their closings. But more realtors are going to attend the closing. Some of them go just to get their check. They wait there. And they make it very clear at the title company that they have to get the check that day. And they'll sit for an hour and wait for a check. So just be aware that if you do that, other people will notice. Other people, there are times the title company will ask you, like, do you want to wait for a check or do you want us to deliver it? And it's like, no, I got time. I'll wait. But if you're a realtor who tells them, I need the check and I need it cut now and I'm going to wait for it, even if that's the truth and you absolutely have to have that check, you've got to get it deposited that day. Just don't say that in front of everyone. So, you're turning over your keys. Don't forget, if you have the buyer's keys in your pocket or your purse, or you put them in your car, don't forget to give them to the buyer, when you go to closing, or even ahead of time. So we've got a couple of checklists to go through. Having a checklist is a big deal. And if you get to a point where you have, a certain number of clients and you don't have, I have a transaction coordinator. If I did not hire a transaction coordinator for every deal, I would need to pay for a database. Like I used to use ACT when I was in the mortgage business. You've got, is it Power Agent, or that's not the right name, but some of those where you can actually, you just set up tasks and then you can attach it to a person's name and just say, okay. And I think you can do this now in Command. Like I said, I have a transaction coordinator who takes care of this. So, but checklists are a big deal because it means that you don't let stuff slip through the cracks and you don't forget to do things. So if we just look at the buyer's checklist. So, and I know you guys have this in front of you, but I'm gonna read through it really quickly just to see if I need to tell you anything on any of this. Submit your contract and earnest money to the title company. And now, you guys, trust funds are amazing, and not just because of coronavirus. Use trust funds. Then you don't have to worry about anybody's checks. You don't have to worry about getting stuff delivered. The buyer pays a $5 user fee, or you can pay it for them, depending on how you feel or how they feel about it. You can obviously always drop a check off to our office. Using trust funds now, because that's an option. The purchase agreement has changed slightly to where you can change that on the very first page. So one of the first check boxes is whether or not the earnest money will be kept by the listing broker, which is almost always the case. or if you check the box or, and then you write where that is going to be, you can have it at the title company. A lot of title companies now are signed up for trust funds. You can have it held with us. If maybe you work with a company, for instance, Atwood Century 21, they don't have trust funds. So they're perfectly fine with us using trust funds, keeping it on our side, but then just make sure that that's how the purchase agreement goes. Deliver earnest money to the listing agent. You have a certain amount of time to do that. Schedule structural and termite inspections. Luckily, in Minnesota, we don't have to deal with termite inspections. There are other places where with loans, every single FHA loan, every single RT loan, like there has to be a termite inspection. Not the case in Minnesota. But you are going to make sure that home inspections get scheduled. Even if you're the listing agent and you're thinking to yourself, it's not my deal, right? Like the buyer's agent needs to take care of that. That's their job. If they don't call you like within a day of you getting your purchase agreement signed, ask them, when are you going to schedule the home inspection? Because if they forgot about it, maybe they don't have a good checklist. Maybe they forgot they even had to do that. Maybe they're new. Maybe they're doing 15 deals right now and they thought they already did it. Always a good idea to ask. Because otherwise what will happen is your seller's going to be really put out. They're going to call and say, hey, I got an inspector and he's coming in 15 minutes. And it won't be convenient, right? For your sellers. So just check in with them. If you're the one who's supposed to get it scheduled right away. And always schedule it early so that you have more time to negotiate. So if you represent the buyer, you've got, say, 10 days to do the home inspection, get that home inspection scheduled on day 2. And you'll have the report by day 3. You've got a day or 2 for your buyers to think about what they want to do if it takes that long. And if they need to decide, what works for them and what they want to ask for. And also they can come up with options. So instead of like, we got to hurry up and get this over to the seller and tell them this is what they have to do or we're not buying the house, and it's in the 11th hour, they can say, you know what? Can you tell them we're going to ask for this, but then tell them we didn't ask for this, but we already know it's going to cost this much money, but my brother does that and we're going to take care of that. You just have more time to think. It gives your buyers more time, for negotiation. Same with your sellers, by the way. If you're the listing agent and you get that inspection request early, let your sellers think about it, especially if they get mad. If they get the requested work order changes, just let them think about it and tell them, look, you don't have to do anything. You can say no. You can say yes to everything. You can say no to everything. You can line item veto. But if you think that they're just responding in anger, don't make the response right away. Let them think about it, because a lot of times they'll sleep on it and then say, hey, you know what? We'll just do that. Obtain a loan approval in writing. That all depends on how the purchase agreement is written. If you have to get that. Negotiating repairs and treatments, that would be based on any inspections or radon tests or septic checks, anything not in compliance. If the well test comes back and it's not good. Schedule a survey if necessary. That would be almost never. That would be typically if there's a land dispute already, or excuse me, there's a land dispute already. If you think that someone's fence is on the property, you need to get that checked. If you think that the fence is on someone else's property, versus the property that you're buying, or if somebody is buying a section of land and you need to reparcel it, you're going to have to get that surveyed and you're going to have to get it platted and get a new parcel ID and all of that good stuff. So I've been a realtor for 7 years and I've never ever had to get a survey, so it doesn't come up super often. Schedule the appraisal. That is not your job. That is the loan officer's job. That is actually the lender's job, not even the loan officer. The loan officer doesn't schedule. A lot of times now, the loan officer doesn't even get to know who the appraiser is. If you're getting to a point where you're thinking, wow, they haven't scheduled, if you're the listing agent, they haven't scheduled the appraisal, and you're like, well, I need to know, when are they going to do this? Because you want to make sure it's going to close on time. So you might reach out to the buyer's agents and say, when are they going to do the appraisal? And then she says, oh, it's already done. Maybe they did an automated value, especially right now during coronavirus. They're doing a lot of those. Or if you're the buyer's agent, no one has told you anything. You should be working more closely with the loan officer if you're the buyer's agent, and they have not told you that the appraisal came in or anything. Like, check in. Just ask them, hey, because you want to make sure that that appraisal comes in, and if there are any issues, you can get anything fixed ahead of time. So especially if it's an FHA, VA, or RD loan. RD is also called USDA. It's the U.S. Department of Agriculture Rural Development loan. So some people call them USDA, some people call them RD. The requirements on those are very similar to FHA. So they're a little more stringent than conventional, even though it is a conventional loan. The appraisals on them have a more stringent checklist and things, guidelines that have to be met. So just know about those. And again, it is not your job to schedule the appraisal. So work with loan officers you can trust. You've got to work with people that you know that you can hand it over to them and they will do their job. If you are micromanaging them and they're good at what they do, they're not going to want to work with you. If you are micromanaging them because they're not good at what they do, find a different referral partner. And as new agents, I'm going to tell you, it can be very tempting to start looking at other new people in the business, whether that is for insurance, lender, title, home inspector, and get together, right? Like get a group and we'll help each other build our businesses. I'm going to recommend that you definitely do not do that, because if you're still learning and you're only doing a couple of deals, I can't tell you how many times as a loan officer that I saved a realtor by saying, hey, you did this wrong, or you didn't fill this out right, you got to get this done, kind of thing. Or saying, nope, this won't work. If you're dealing with anything other than a conventional loan, new loan officers, if they run it through their system, they get an okay, and they get a green light, good to go. They don't know to look for other things that underwriters are that are specific. Like you have to have 3 open trade lines for over a year, or you have to have 4 forms of, whatever. I'm going to need 2 years of work history, and your work history isn't going to pass. Things like that, where just because the computer's saying everything is fine, the new loan officer isn't going to know. Well, you as a new agent, you're not going to know either. And maybe didn't even know those were questions that you had to ask. So same with inspections. I used a brand new inspector because he was a friend of mine, and I figured that he's a smart guy. I went to high school with him, and I figured he'd be really good at being a home inspector. And he started going to chamber events, and he was doing all the stuff that he should be doing. And anyway, I hired him twice, or had my buyers hire him twice, and he was terrible, absolutely terrible. And I knew that because I already knew what I was doing, and then realized that this guy doesn't know what he's doing, and he's not even taking the time to look stuff up. So you just don't team up with all new people, because seriously, your good referral partners are going to be the people that you know and trust, and that you can just give it to them, let them handle it. And they're going to have your back, and they're going to cover your butt sometime at some point, when you missed a box, or you didn't include the lead-based paint thing or something like that. Like, your lender is going to help you out. Your home inspector is going to, if they're really good, they're going to explain everything to you, hopefully ahead of time. I used to go to all the home inspections, the whole 2-3 hours. I don't anymore, because I don't feel like they need me to watch them. And I know what to expect now, and I know it's there, and I 100% trust the home inspectors that I have, and I know that there's an issue that they think that I won't be able to explain by reading a report, they're going to walk me through it. They're going to tell me what's wrong right when I get to the house. So the next thing on the checklist is schedule a closing appointments if necessary. Okay, so that's always necessary. And as soon as you get an accepted offer, I put it on my calendar. So you're closing on or before May 31st. It gets accepted, and I go to my calendar and I put it on my calendar for 9 a.m. May 31st. Odds are good we're not going to close at 9 a.m., but it'll be on my calendar, and I'll know then that day, like, don't make plans to do something else or have other appointments. I want to be able to go to my closings. And your closing should be, depending on the title companies that you use or which attorneys you use, I would say plan on scheduling those 2 weeks in advance at minimum. You can always schedule it way earlier than that, but don't wait until the final hour and then find out they don't have any openings and that you got to change the date. Like, that's never good. Then one thing that they don't have on here is when you're finalizing kind of like the scheduling time, make sure that you are telling your buyers and or your sellers to change the utilities. So when you know, oh, what just happened? Oh, okay. It was echoing. So when you know that the deal is going to close and it's going to close on time, tell your buyers or sellers to call the utility companies and get them switched out of their name or into their name. I actually have a checklist for my sellers. It's a KW checklist. I'm pretty sure you can find it in our Google Docs. But you know, it says like, you know, like update your driver's license, return your library books, and there's all kinds of stuff. But utilities, you know, it's not just gas and electric. Some people have propane. Like, make sure you get that prorated, by the way. Whether you're the buyer or the seller, make sure you find out the buyer's got to pay for what's left in that tank and how much it's going to be. And if the seller is going to get the rebate and how much that's going to be for what they've already paid for that is sitting in the tank. Make sure you tell people to cancel their garbage service and to tell the garbage company to pick up the garbage cans. Doesn't matter, the garbage company still won't do it. A lot of times you have to call 3 times. But always tell them to make sure that they tell the garbage company it's the last pickup and to take the cans with them. To cancel satellite service, internet service, you know, all of that stuff. So again, there's a whole checklist on that in the KW docs. Final walkthrough with your buyer. You're typically going to do that the day of closing or the night before. That's going to depend a little bit on what time your closing is scheduled for, what your buyer's schedule is like, and then whether or not the sellers can accommodate that. Let's say you're closing at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Thursday, and then you say you want to do the final walkthrough at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Wednesday. A lot of times the sellers are like, yeah, we're not going to be all moved out. Since we have until you're done closing, we have all day tomorrow. And no, we don't want you there. We don't want you there the night before. You're going to be in our way. We're not supposed to be there, etc. A lot of times it'll just work out like, let's say you're closing at 10 o'clock in the morning, and so you do the final walkthrough at 9. 99% of the time, that is going to be just fine. However, there's a reason for doing the final walkthrough, and that is to make sure that the property is in the same condition as when offers were written. So if your buyers go and they do a final walkthrough and you find out, maybe the sellers were already gone, right? Maybe they don't even know, but the moving company actually rammed into the door and took the door off the hinges, put a big hole in the sheetrock, ripped up the carpet on the stairs. They moved a piece of furniture that was hiding a big hole in the sheetrock, or burn marks on the wood floor, whatever. There's so many things that you can find. And not the least of which, let me tell you, will almost always be people do not clean. Always warn your buyers. Always tell your sellers to clean the house. Always warn your buyers. Everybody's idea of clean is different. Assume that you are going to spend your first day cleaning the house. Some people don't care. They can't even see the dirt. But a lot of times, I don't know if sellers just run out of time or if they are leaving the state and don't care what people think of them. But clean just doesn't, it just doesn't happen. So, I mean, sometimes it does and the place is immaculate. But just make sure that you're preparing your buyers that things can go wrong. And if you do that walkthrough right before the closing, it can end up being, if there is a problem, you don't have a whole lot of time to fix it. And that can put your buyers in a position where they just have to close because they can't delay by a day. You maybe can't get a hold of the sellers. Their loan is going to completely change or they won't get approved again. You know, there's so many little things that can end up just kicking that out for a buyer. So try not to put them in a position of having to accept a property that they didn't think they were purchasing just because they have no options except to go to closing. You know, you can't work out a new deal. You can't get a credit. You can't, like, there's, you know, they're just stuck. Which is another reason it's always a really good idea to schedule your closings for the morning, because then you still have the rest of the day to work some stuff out if something doesn't go right. You know, coordinate the move-in dates. Sometimes, seriously, people don't understand that they have to move everything all in a day. They have to move out and they have to move in. So make sure, like, let's say that you're closing on August 1st and your buyers are renters and they have to be out the day before. That means that they don't have anywhere to stay. Sometimes they don't realize that that's the position they put themselves in. If you're closing August 1st and they have to be gone and out of their apartment July 31st by probably noon, and they have 2 dogs and it's the middle of winter, you know, they can't sleep in their car. So just be aware. Just be aware and make sure that you keep all of your people aware. Make sure that your sellers know. As soon as you get stuff and they start coordinating moves, you got to tell them right away, like, hey, if you're hiring a moving company, hire them now. You can always cancel. You can always push the date back. But if you wait until 3 days before, no one is going to have the time. I mean, they're just going to be booked. And yes, you got to move out ahead of time. And then confirm that the loan will fund on time for closing. Have client review closing disclosure for accuracy. Closing disclosure also comes from the lender 3 days ahead of time. And both of those things the lender takes care of. So again, get referral partners you can trust. Work with people who know what they're doing and make sure that that all, you know, is being done on that side. Don't do their job for them. Don't micromanage them. And if you have to, you know, if you at some point realize that you are constantly having to check in and they don't tell you what's going on, find a new referral partner. Because we have enough to do, really we do. So don't try to take on other people's jobs too. And attend the closing and then receive your payment. Yay! That's the best part. Who doesn't like payday? I love payday. Super cool thing about Keller Williams. Also, you guys, we typically get paid the same day as closing. Maybe a day after. The only time that doesn't happen is if they don't get a check from the title company. So also be aware, if you don't get an email from Katie saying that your direct deposit was made or that your check is ready to print, a couple days go by, maybe ask her, because Katie has never ever forgotten to cut a check, ever. I don't think Katie ever forgets to do any part of her job. She is a systems girl. So if she didn't cut your check or make the deposit, ask her, because odds are good that means that the title company did not get her the money. So sometimes, I actually had a title company, I think it was like 5 days after closing. that I was like, this is weird. I didn't get anything from Katie. And I asked Katie and she said, no, no check from the title company. And then I asked the title company, and then an hour later, they're like, we're on our way to drop it off now, which was seriously a week after closing. And that's odd. That's fairly common in other areas in our nation, but it is not common in southeastern Minnesota, and definitely not common with Keller Williams, because there are other agencies or brokerages out there where, you know, the closing happens and you'll get paid within a week. Doesn't matter when they get the check. They don't cut checks every day, or they don't cut them immediately, or, you know, I don't know, they'll do it when they feel it. But ours are always right. And I always check the math because I'm a numbers geek, and I, you know, check everything. My check has only ever been wrong one time. I mean, it was off by 66 cents, and I went back to Katie, and Katie had to go back through all of my transactions to figure out what happened. But she loves numbers and I love numbers, so most people would never notice that. But you should always know what you're getting paid. I think you should always follow that. So, okay, we spent a lot of time, I guess, on that buyer checklist. But do you guys have any questions about it? Okay, so the next one, I'm just going to read through this one because it's very similar. The listing agent, from contract to close. If you're the listing agent, open title. Okay, that's the first thing it says. I think it said that on the other one too, but we don't open title. Okay, we don't do the title work. But do submit your stuff to the title company. That's the part that you have to do. Whoever you're working with for title, just make sure that you get them the file and make sure that they get it open and start doing their part. Because if there is an issue, and by the way, our title companies, the major title companies in our areas, whether it be in Winona, Mankato, or Rochester, they can almost all close a deal in a week. So, but they need to know. They need to know about it, and don't make them do that. Okay, like don't wait till the week before closing for them to open a file, because you never know if there's a judgment, or if there's a shared access thing on a property that no one knew about, or if there's a lien on the property that nobody knew about. Sometimes that happens. So send everything over to the title company. Submit the contract and earnest money. Deliver earnest money. Coordinate inspections. Receive written confirmation on loan approval. Again, that would be depending on how the purchase agreement is written. If loan approval has been asked for ahead of time, then you need to make sure that you follow up with that buyer's agent. Because if it's been asked for ahead of time, that means that you're the one probably who checked the box saying, no, we want this, and we want to make sure that you have loan approval a week before closing. So if they agree to that, make sure you get it. Negotiate repairs and treatments. Always know that your sellers have the right to say yes, no, yes to all, no to all, yes, no, maybe, you know, to some. We'll do this, but we won't do it like that. We will fix the garage door opener, but we are not hiring a licensed contractor to do that. I can do it myself. You know, some of that stuff. Just know you have the option to say back, yeah, we don't need a licensed GC to come in and fix the eyes so that the garage door will open when it's supposed to. Also, one thing you should also know, sellers cannot cancel the purchase agreement based on the inspection requests. So let's say that you just get a ridiculous, you know, 32 item checklist of what a buyer wants the seller to fix. And the seller's like, you know what, I didn't like these people anyway, just cancel the purchase agreement. Okay, you actually can't. The seller can't. They can say no to everything, say we're not gonna work with you, and hope that the buyer cancels. But if the buyer doesn't cancel, they still have to move forward. Now the buyer can cancel in that whole inspection time period, and they can cancel for any reason. And they do not have to have an inspection during that time. They can still cancel for any reason. So just know who's got that power, right? Like for cancellation. Schedule a survey again. That's like almost never Ensure the appraisal has been scheduled, coordinate move-in date, schedule closing, conduct final walkthrough with the buyer. No, yeah, we don't do that. If you're the listing agent, you're not doing a final walkthrough with the buyer. Have the client review closing disclosure. We also have a document for net proceeds to the seller. And that's a Keller Williams document. It's in Excel where you can plug in, numbers. And then when your seller says, well, how much is this going to cost me? It's if you're the listing agent, it's going to cost more than your commission. And so you need to be able to give them numbers for what it's going to cost them. So some of that is property. Some of that is if they're going to have a well inspection or a septic inspection, what title they have their own closing costs, even if they're paying the buyer's closing costs. But so make sure that they know the numbers, make sure you know the numbers so that when they get to closing and they see, and typically we have sellers pre-sign so they can go in ahead of time. And then if there's anything wrong or they go, whoa, what is this? You have time to fix that for them. You go to the closing, yep, and then receive your payment. Yay, payday. The whole reason we do this job, right? So that's a lot on systems. And they're just so important. And make sure that you've got, make some checklists, take that checklist, run with it. Talk to other people in our office. You feel free to ask me, hey, is there more that you do, or what does your transaction coordinator do? Because Nikki keeps track of everything for me. And it's just, checklists are just a great way to make sure that stuff doesn't fall through the cracks. So the next part is be a problem solver. Your turn, page 20. So if you're on page 20 in your guys' books, so here's one of the things one of the first things there is your turn to be the problem solver is inspections and repairs. So how things go wrong, surprise findings. If you represent the seller, you can have them do a pre-inspection so that they're not blindsided with an inspection. Some of that you'll kind of get to know when you're walking through houses, and you'll kind of start to realize when you're looking at a house or how old it is. Maybe you go into a house and you realize the furnace is from 1987 and it still runs great and it's really, really clean. But that might be a time where you say to the seller, hey, you know what? You might just want to say that you're willing to offer a home warranty. Just to avoid people saying that they don't want to buy a house because they know they're going to have to replace the furnace. If you purchase a home warranty, that can be covered. So talking about costs and who pays, you're going to find sometimes with sellers, they're going to tell you radon is stupid and I'm not paying to put a radon system in my house. I'll give the people money, I'll give them credit, but it's dumb, I'm not doing it. And I'm not paying anybody's closing costs. If I always paid my own closing costs, people need to pay their own closing costs. I'm not doing it. You just, first of all, agree with them. Say, oh, I totally understand. Yep, I get where you're coming from. And if the price is right, I mean, what the heck? We'll do whatever they say, right? I mean, kind of, turn it into a we thing. And look, if they increase the price by $1,500, but they have to have it done because maybe the loan people, maybe they don't even care either, right? Like, just put it in a way that you're not disagreeing with them and you're not telling them that they have to do something because they don't have to do it. However, sometimes, I mean, seriously, sellers will dig their heels in on a $100 item because it's the principle of the thing. So just knowing how to get around that and talk to them. And number one, the first thing that you do is agree. First thing that you do is agree with them. Tell them that you understand where they're coming from. I agree. I feel the same way. And if I saw a way around this, but at the end of the day, does it matter more to you if we close on the house and you give up $100, or are you okay with the buyer walking away and we start over? And if you want to start over, we can start over. I'm totally okay with starting over. And usually if you put it like that, then they go, well, I mean, do you really think the buyer would walk away? Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, usually they don't want to start over. If they do want to start over for $100, run the other way, because they're never going to sell their house. So they're not motivated sellers. But anyway, you can talk ahead of time about things that might come up in an inspection, or what can happen with the radon test, or what can happen with an appraisal, depending on what kind of loan somebody is getting when you get, a purchase agreement. And same thing with your buyers. Go through the same thing with them. Hey, look, you can get a radon test, and we're absolutely going to ask the sellers if it comes back high. Sellers, however, can say no, and they don't have to fix it. So you just have to know ahead of time, what's your limit? Like, where are you okay with still buying this house? Doubt about worthiness. Prepare and reassure your client about how things will happen, and document work in invoices. So, if you ask for repairs in an inspection, sometimes I ask for receipts, paid receipts, to be presented before closing, sometimes on or before closing or at closing. Other times it depends on what needs to be done. If it's something that a seller can do themselves and they're not going to have a receipt, then you don't have to ask for the receipts. But if it is something that you're asking a contractor to do, if you're putting right in there, like, we want a licensed electrical contractor or a licensed HVAC contractor, make sure that you get a paid receipt, because they might get the work done and then they don't ever pay it. And then any contractor can file a mechanic's lien, which isn't going to show up in title yet, right? But they'll file a mechanic's lien, and it's against the property where they did the improvements. It's not against the person. So then your buyer could potentially end up having to pay that. And if they decide not to pay it, and because it's the principle of the thing, they'll end up having to pay it when they sell the house, because it'll be a lien attached to the property. So there's a reason to ask for a receipt sometimes. If an appraisal comes in and it won't support the price, make sure that you always tell your buyers and your seller, it doesn't matter if you price the home super accurately. If it doesn't sell till 6 months later, the market may have completely changed. Somebody comes in and they make an offer, and now it won't appraise because everything's sold for less money. You have a listing, or there's a listing, right, for $200,000, multiple offers. It's going to sell in a minute. Final price, okay, is $220. Whether you have the buyer or you have the seller, you've got to warn either side. There's a chance it won't appraise. So what are you going to do if that's what happens? Are you going to come up with the difference? Are we going to say that you're not going to have to pay that? Also, make sure that that's how your purchase agreement is written, especially if you're a conventional buyer. If you've got it's already in there with FHA and VA. But if it's a conventional loan, make sure that you write in there that if it doesn't appraise, that they have the option to cancel or renegotiate. And if they cancel, all earned money is refunded to them. So, just because it doesn't appraise doesn't mean that their financing won't go through. So just know that that is something now that it didn't used to be that way. Our purchase agreements used to be written differently, but that is one of those where you want to just make sure that your buyer's taken care of if you represent the buyer. You can appeal the appraisal. That's a long process, and it really depends on who the appraiser is and whether or not you have any luck with it. Again, will depend on the appraiser. It will depend on the lender. I have not had to do that. I think mostly I've just lucked out because there have certainly been properties that I've listed that have sold for way over listing price when I thought I was stretching the listing price and they still appraised. So be ready with comps. You know, if I mean, if it wasn't a multiple offer that raised the bid or something like that, just be ready with comps in case something happens and it doesn't come through. Just know sometimes you're going to have to justify how you arrived at that price. Okay, does anybody have any questions on this, any of this part so far? Am I making sense? I hope. Okay.
Yes, it makes sense.
Thanks. This seriously, this is so weird to teach a class and not be in front of people. It's like, it's, I don't know, it's just weird. Usually I'm walking around and I'm, you know, talking to everybody, and so really, you guys, if you have a question about anything I'm saying, just, you know, just shout out, just take everything off mute and just ask me. So loan approval and funding, there's always stuff that can go wrong with that, right? Basically, again, you want to work with a lender you can trust, work with somebody who's good at what they do. You don't want to, let's say, if you're working with a veteran and they are going to get a VA loan, you do not want to send them to someone who's been to classes on VA loans but has never actually done a VA loan. You don't want your buyer to be their first one. Everybody has to have a first one, but if you can avoid your buyer being the first one, you know, just know who's good at the RD loans, know who's good at FHA, know who's good at VA, know who offers them. And by no means am I trying to throw these guys under the bus, right? But First Alliance, they're amazing credit union. Their mortgage people are fantastic. Their processor is fantastic. They do RD loans and most of them go smoothly. Here's the thing though, they don't actually do RD loans. The rural development they give to, it's almost like they broker it out and they send it to another company, which is out of Iowa. And for rural development loans, they vary by county. So as far as I'm concerned, if you're going to do an RD loan, you need somebody who's local and you need somebody who's worked in the county, and you need, you know, because there are just different requirements and income things, and you got to know the appraisers and you got to know the title companies when you're doing RD. So I highly recommend First Alliance, except for RD. And then I'm just going to tell you, make sure that you're working with the company that does RD loans and that they're doing them themselves. And then make sure VA, FHA, RD, any of those, make sure that it's not the first time that your loan officer has ever done one. If your buyer says, well, this is my best friend and they just started, but you know, just then warn them. Odds are good. You know, we could have a problem. Other contingencies, sale of buyer's home, backup offers, etc. I mean, you guys, you know, you talked about all of that with the purchase agreement. One of the worst things that can happen with that is if you're the listing agent and your sellers accept an offer that is contingent on the buyer's sale of their property, then that buyer's property does not sell. So that's just a hard place for everyone to be in. But there are times, you know, that, you know, maybe just your sellers say, we just want to put it back on the market and get people back through again. And then you know, you tell that to the buyers, and it doesn't even necessarily mean that they lose the house, just they do for now, you know. So however many contingency days are written into the contract, then you just say, okay, well, you've got 3 days to get your house off the market with no contingencies, or we're canceling this purchase agreement. So other agent, bad advice or communication. I don't find so much that other agents are the problem as much as mom and dad and my coworker who used to be a real estate agent. My response to that inside my head is, well, they must have been really good at it if they're not doing it anymore. But you'll get people who are listening to those people and they are not listening to you. And usually that means that whether it's your seller or your buyer, that they are not confident in their decisions. They are worried about making a mistake. So sometimes you just have to put your foot down. You just have to put your foot down and say, look, I know that people are talking to you. I know you're getting a ton of advice from all over the place, but you hired me for a reason. You're paying me. So I am doing what is in your best interest, and you have to trust that I know what I'm doing. If you keep getting, feedback, especially when you don't have an agreement signed, if you're getting feedback and static from someone who's constantly questioning you, and you haven't even maybe written a purchase agreement, or maybe you haven't written the winning purchase agreement, odds are good they're going to be really difficult to work with. So sometimes you have to make a hard decision and just say, look, we're really good friends and I want to keep it that way. So there's a gal in my office who I think is actually better suited to work with you. I think you know what, I'm going to introduce you to Mike, and I think that you'll be able to work with him. And if you can get a referral fee out of it, keep your friendship, right? And by the way, no deal is worth your reputation ever. But there are times, I've had people come to me and I know that they trust me, but then they'll come to me and say, well, my dad said this doesn't make any sense, and he thinks there's something really, really wrong with this because you have to put 20% down to be able to buy a house. Your response to that is, your dad is absolutely right. That is 100% true. And that's probably how it was when he bought his house. However, that has changed. And now there are a lot of programs out there where you can buy a house only putting 3% down, and it's not creative financing. And it's not, the weird brokers that were out there. And by the way, that changed 30 years ago. You just don't add that part. But yeah, you just always tell people, yeah, your dad's right. Yeah, your coworker's right. Or depending on if the coworker's giving them really bad advice, sometimes you just got to say, look, they don't know what they're talking about. So usually if something's going to happen that's going to go wrong, it's going to be due to the loan. So if it's not the appraisal, it'll be something else with the loan, or the buyer went and bought a boat because he got approved, or he loses his job or he quit his job. Okay, that's happened before. The buyer quits their job because they got approved and then they got everything finalized with a purchase agreement. So they quit their job because they hate their job and they don't think it matters now that they're approved and the purchase agreement is signed and they have a closing date. They didn't know that the loan officer was actually going to check their employment within 5 days of closing, or they're going to repull your credit, things like that. So it's almost always a loan that will, for whatever reason, something with a loan or the appraisal. And the appraisal, again, you know what? The appraisal is done for the lender. It is not done for your buyer. It is done for the lender and it belongs to the lender. Your buyer just pays for it. A home inspection is done for the buyer, and your buyer has control with the home inspection, but the appraisal is done for the lender. And sometimes, in fact, I think it was just recently in our Keller Williams Facebook that Nick Stoggerberg was talking about having made an offer with no contingencies, I don't know, 20K over list. They countered at, or he made it 10K over list and they countered at 20K over list. They countered the counter at 17,000 over list, and the people took a different offer. And somebody in our group said, I want to know why would it be better if they were getting $20,000 versus $17,000 overrate? That's $3,000. Why wouldn't it be better for the seller to take that and get an additional $3,000 that had a home inspection and had a loan on it? And Nick's explanation simply was almost everything that goes wrong will be because of a loan. If you have a cash offer and no contingencies, you're almost guaranteed to close. I mean, someone could get hit by a bus or something can happen, right? There's no guarantee until it's actually done. But $3,000, and people can cancel and things can go wrong, and maybe it doesn't even happen or whatever. Sometimes $3,000 is worth it, maybe. But if you were already $17,000 over list price, just know that almost everything that goes wrong that holds up a closing, almost everything is going to be lending. And the next issue is going to be title. That you're going to find out either the seller or the buyer has a judgment against them, or there's a lien on the property, or they have a second mortgage or something like that, and they didn't know that they had to pay it. Sometimes they don't even know it's out there. Other times they just didn't know that they were going to have to pay something off or take care of it, like a judgment. So that's the other thing that can hold something up. Let's see, we're at 5 to 11. Do you guys, let's see, let me just see where I'm at on this. Let's do this part, because I don't think this part is going to take very long, really. So seize this golden opportunity. This is more or less about getting your future business, and that has to do with how you handle the whole process, right? And then afterwards. But what do you guys think are the top things, the key things that you can do to leave a good impression with your clients, sellers or buyers?
I would say number one is make sure you communicate with them throughout the whole process so they don't feel left out.
That is a great answer. It's the perfect answer. I serve on different committees with CMAR, and the number one complaint that CMAR gets, and the phone calls that they get and the emails that they get complaining about agents, are a lack of communication. So what else? How else do you leave a good impression?
Put the customer's needs first.
Okay, tell me what you mean by that.
Well, just making sure that you're doing what they ask and doing things the way that they want it done versus trying to completely micromanagement. I mean, even though you're the agent, you still want to make sure that they're being heard and that you're putting their feelings and their needs first.
Yes. Yeah, and I don't know how many of you on this call are extroverts versus introverts. I've actually taught a class on networking and sales tips, for extroverts, but then with specific ones for introverts. Pretty sure you guys can probably all tell that I'm an extrovert, total extrovert. And that means I have a very easy time, talking to people. I love being around people. I get energy from being around people. If any of you are introverts though, you tend to be better salespeople. And introverts actually make better salespeople because they're better listeners. People like me I'm just waiting for my turn to talk. That's a lot of what the extrovert maybe, asks a question and then starts to answer it. So to go along with, customer service and listening to your customers is listening to your clients. It really is making sure that you're listening to them and not telling them what they need to think or how they need to feel. Because there's nobody out there who's just like us. So things that are important to us aren't always the most important thing to someone else. Okay, anything else on that?
I would say being honest and forthcoming even when it's difficult. Like being okay to tell them bad news or to, just be honest with them, I guess, in all ways.
Yes. You know what? That's huge. I think naturally as people, we don't like to hurt people's feelings. And if something is going wrong and it kind of makes you feel a little sick to your stomach with the idea of telling your client what happened or what's wrong, or if you made a mistake, some realtors just don't do it. They just avoid it at all costs. They just don't do it. They'll drop off the face of the earth because they don't want to get yelled at, or they don't want to hurt someone's feelings, or they don't want to deal with it. So being honest with people, sometimes, I mean, you know what? They might yell at you and they might freak out. Usually those are like the hardest phone calls to make, or discussions to have. I 100% think that you either do those in person or on the phone, right? Not in an email, not in a text. But sometimes it's just when you're walking through someone's house and you're going, oh, you guys, yeah, this has all got to come down. You know, they've got the worst taste in the whole world, and clearly you can't say that. But you got to say something. You know, you got to tell them you can't leave all your chintz curtains here, and you collect all these super weird masks that are creepy, and it looks like a haunted house, and they got to go. I have found what this is my advice when you're doing a listing presentation and somebody really, they have too much personal stuff, or they have things that they're really attached to that they love. What works for me, a great line that has worked for me is, just remember, we're trying to sell your house, right? We're not trying to sell you. You don't come with the house. So a great way to know whether or not you should get rid of something that is there, if you're wondering if you should pack it up or leave it out, here's your test. The more you love it, the more likely it is that it needs to be packed up because it's personal. And we aren't trying to sell you. We're only trying to sell the house. So I find that works, and that people don't get offended then. You know, I'm not saying your doll collection is hideous. I'm saying, hey, let's just not, have your personal stuff out. So with that, it's now 11:03. So I'm gonna say let's break for like 10 minutes, and then when we come back, the rest of this class is actually pretty quick. We should be done well before noon, unless you guys have questions. If you do flip through the rest of the book, if there's something that you want to make sure that we talk about, let me know. But otherwise, let's plan on being back here in, 10 minutes would be 11:13, so let's make it 11:15. So, grab something to drink or grab a bite to eat, or, use the restroom, whatever you guys need to do. Finish your notes, make some more phone calls, and we'll be back in about 12 minutes.
Hey, just a heads up, we're gonna be staying on the call, but we have to go like silent for a little while. We gotta go back on the job site again, so.
Okay. All right, thanks. Thanks for letting me know. So again, I'm gonna put this on mute so you don't have to listen to me, because I do have a phone call to make, but at the same time, I can hear you guys. So if you have a question, just give a shout out or something, and I'll be standing right next to my computer. So otherwise, I'll see you guys in about 10 minutes. Hey, Clayton, I'm just reading my chat messages. Are you there? Can you hear me?
You talking?
She just looked at her chat messages.
Oh, did I
Yeah,
say?
sorry. They didn't show up the same way, like in the middle of my screen. But so to answer your question, why did I get my real estate license instead of getting back into the brokerage?
Yeah,
Market recovered. For about the last year that I was in the mortgage business, I was thinking that I was better suited to be a realtor. And being a super people person, right? I get close to people. All of my clients become my friends. If we weren't friends before, we're best friends now. Kind of like I would go to closings as the mortgage person, and then whoever was closing, and obviously I only worked with buyers then, right? Because doing the loans, and the closing would get done, they'd sign all the paperwork, and they would stand up and they would hug their realtor, thank them up and down. And they spent so much time with the realtor looking at houses. I still love looking at houses. Some people just they're always looking on the internet. They just like to look at pictures of houses. Yeah, that's me. Like, hey, do you want to look at this house? I mean, I know it doesn't fit your criteria, but I just really want to see the inside of this house. So do you want to look at this house in Lake City? Like, I'm still like that. So when the market really started to go south, I thought to myself, I owned a brokerage, so the brokers were the big bad wolves. They were, the banks had more money. They had more money to lobby, all of that stuff. With all of the Frank and Dodd stuff that they were passing, brokers were the bad guys. And so I knew that I could just go work for a bank. I could go back to working at a bank where I wouldn't own anything. I wouldn't be in charge of anything. And at best, I would be the top peon, and I was good at mortgages and I'm good at numbers, but I did not love what I did. So I kind of thought to myself, I'm like, is this what you want to do for the rest of your life? And no, it was like this resounding answer. Like it didn't even, I don't know, the inside of me just said no. So I got out of the business. And even then, that was 2008, end of 2007, beginning, I officially closed everything in 2008, and I got a job as a sales manager at Home Design Studio. But even then, I thought about getting my real estate license. But real estate is a lot of nights and weekends, right? Because we work when everybody else doesn't. That's when they can go look at houses. And I have 3 children who are now all in their 20s. But at the time, in 2008, I was like, well, I make dinner every night. I mean, I've got family stuff to do, and being gone on nights and weekends, it's the only time to see your kids. And so it wasn't the right time. And when the market did recover, I had a different sales position. And then I went back into the engineering world. And I was like, I just can't do this. I just can't sit at a desk every day, all day long. I hadn't had to do that in a long time. So I was like, what do I want to do? What do I want to do with my life? And everyone kept saying, why aren't you a realtor? Why don't you get into real estate? And my realtor friends said, get your real estate license. And I never wanted to go back into the mortgage business. There are great things about it. In fact, my boss was Bob Reynolds. His brother is Randy Reynolds, who's one of the owners of Elcor and, a developer and tons of investment properties. Bob Reynolds used to be one of the owners at Elcor. I'm pretty sure he's one of the owners. Anyway, Bob Reynolds was a realtor for a really long time. And then he got into the mortgage business. And he's like, I would never go back to being a realtor. Being a realtor is terrible. Sucks. Well, for Bob, because here's why. Being a realtor is like a whole lot of people time. And Bob would way rather sit at a desk. So I'm the opposite. So that's why. I mean, I certainly could have. I could have gone back into, and I think even in the beginning, my partners in the mortgage business, I had one who was a financial advisor and one was a tax accountant, and I think that they still had the federal ID number open. So, I mean, we easily, I think they kept hoping that that's what I would do. And I just never had any desire to go back to that. And you make a lot of money as a loan officer. And in a lot of ways, it's easier. In a lot of ways, it's harder. So, you know, kind of depends on your personality, like any sales, you know?
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, well, thanks for the question. It's a great question. So, you know, in that vein, why did you decide to get your real estate license?
Well, we want to eventually have our own properties and to get into property management. So we already own a cleaning company, so we decided to get our real estate licenses.
Cool. So you're not necessarily looking to make $1 million selling real estate, but by investing in real estate.
Right. Well,
Okay, cool.
we want to do both, but mainly invest.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay, well, we're now at 11:20, so even 5 minutes later than when we were going to get back. But just to wrap stuff up, really what we're going to talk about now is, you know, what do you do after the closing? Agents have 2 agendas. Okay, this is from Gary Keller. He has so many great quotes, right? And read his books. I mean, he's phenomenal. There's a reason why the $1 Million Real Estate Agent has been a bestseller for years and years and years. People that are not from Keller Williams read this book, right? It's on the shelves at Barnes & Noble. So, but agents have 2 agendas. Number 1 is to move the current transaction toward a successful closing. Number 2, to ensure referrals. Most agents don't get that. Most agents think that their job is to close the deal. Okay, that's it. And one of the best things about Keller Williams is that they teach you how to run a business. So if you work at other brokerages, right, they'll give you sales tips and they'll tell you to do sales stuff. They'll even give you scripts. And if you go to your leader or your manager or your broker, or whoever's in charge, and you're like, man, I really need some business, and then they're going to tell you, go talk to your friends and family. Talk to your friends and family. Call your friends and family. So if your answer is okay, I mean, I did that yesterday. Am I calling them again today? Like calling all my friends? Hey, do you know anyone who's thinking about buying or selling a house? No, I don't. Okay, well, thanks for thinking about that. And call them the next day. How about now? Okay, now? How about now? Keller Williams actually gives you the tools to not have to just call friends and family or rely on friends and family. You can call expireds, you can call on FSBOs, you can do all of that, but then it's also just tracking it, right? Like a certain number of phone calls are going to get you a certain number of appointments, and a certain number of appointments are going to get you a certain number of deals. A certain number of deals are going to get you to a certain number of closings. And you know, you take the spreadsheet that Keller Williams has and you just put a number in, like, I want to make this much money at the end of the year. And boom, it'll break it all down. Oh, that means you have to call this many people tomorrow. That's where you start. So we do way more than get the transaction to closing, right? First, we have to get the transactions. Getting the transactions is ensuring referrals. The best time to ask for a referral is through the process before you get to closing. Don't wait to prove yourself, right? Like, you're doing a good job and your people are really happy. And every single time that they thank you for something, you know, like, oh, I wish I could repay you. And I'm like, oh, you always can, you know, tell everyone you know. Tell your friends and family, work with me. If you ever hear about somebody talking about housing, tell them to call me, you know, get a hold of me. And then the day of closing, you had a really smooth transaction and everything is great. And everyone's thank you so much. And they give you a big hug. Not now, you know, right? Because it's COVID, but just say, do you know anyone? Usually the answer is going to be no, right? But you're going to put that seed there and then just say, well, I just loved working with you guys. And I find that most people hang out with the kind of people who are like them. If I can have more clients like you, my life would be perfect. So if any of your friends or family are thinking about buying a house, let me know. So always ask for referrals. And there are really easy ways to do that without being a used car salesman. 88% of clients say that they would use their real estate agent again, but only 12% do. So these numbers have actually changed, and I think it's 17% now that do. Part of the reason for that is, and by the way, the number used to be less than 12, so it's gone up. But part of the reason for that is because really good agents read the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, and they follow the practices and they stay in touch with their clients, which people didn't used to do. Great agents, however, do. And really it's the 80-20 rule, right? 20% of the agents do 80% of the business, and that's always true. So the last part that we're really going to talk about is tokens of appreciation. So it's on page 28 of your guys' books. Write thank you gift ideas. So instead of just writing these down, I just want to know, like, kind of in any experience in your life, so whether or not you do things for your clients, whether or not somebody did something for you when you bought or sold a house, whether or not you've heard other agents do something, or whether or not you've ever had that great salesperson who stayed in touch with you or did something that you will never forget. What are some of your guys' thoughts or ideas or experiences? Don't all talk at once. Somebody has to have had an experience where, or at least heard of somebody else talking about an experience. That was a really good.
So one thing when the wife and I we moved about 3 years ago now. One thing that our real estate agent did for us at the time was actually pay for a U-Haul truck so we could load everything up and move it. And I think that's something that I'm gonna be doing for my clients going forward, because that was a big help and one less expense to have to worry about in the whole process.
So where did you move from?
So we moved from Zumbrota to Rochester.
Okay, and who was your agent?
Nellie Dettinger.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, she comes up with all kinds of stuff. And the reason I asked who your agent was because you'd be amazed at how many people can tell a great story about their realtor, but they don't actually know who the realtor was. So super cool. And because it's Nellie, I don't even have to ask you if it was her own U-Haul. She actually had to rent one for you. She doesn't just have that stuff. So that's awesome. Nellie seriously is an agent who will do whatever it takes to help somebody get to their closing day. She's also not afraid to travel. Like, she lives over in Wisconsin now, and she'll sell something over in Elkton. I mean, and I don't know, what does she have now? 8 kids? 7 or 8 kids? I don't know. She's kind of amazing. She's a powerhouse. So if you guys haven't met Nellie, if you're ever in the office, like once we can go back to being in the office, she still stops in every once in a while. And she is just go, go, go. But if you meet her, she's just the most relaxed. I mean, she'll sit down and she's just, kind of lolly. Like, you would never guess that she's like this huge top producer who never runs out of energy, because she never makes you feel like she's like this. Some people are really driven, but then they make you feel like being around them is just, oh yeah, she's not one of those. She's her whole own personality. So does anybody have anything else? Anything you've heard about other agents doing? Any ideas that you're thinking that you want to implement once stuff gets going?
I think for me,
We'll be offering our cleaning services to clients.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I think for me, I don't know. I service like the Austin area. I live in Blooming Prairie. There's a huge local push right now for shop local, buy local, eat, drink local. So I think that's something that I definitely want to follow suit with when I'm thinking about gifts of appreciation.
Yeah. I haven't been to Blooming Prairie in several years. So what Like what stores do you have there?
So we have like a floral shop, but she also has like all kinds of home gifts, a lot of stuff from people in the area. Like they will make stuff, earrings, all kinds of stuff like that. And then she sells it. So that's kind of the crafty store there in Floral. We have like a BP Nutrition that just
You guys have
opened.
a restaurant?
We have the pizza cellar, so they have, and then there's like an attached bar and grill to it. But
Okay.
so it's flourishing though. It's good.
No, I like Blooming Prairie. I do. I like small towns. I'm a small town girl. So I just haven't been over there in a long time. I used to be a sales rep for a trucking company, so I traveled all over southern Minnesota. And yeah, so you just get to know a lot of places that otherwise you wouldn't even know existed.
Mm-hmm.
So here are the items that are listed as tokens of appreciation from the class, right? These are their ideas. Providing return address labels and just moved postcards, pre-printed with the client's new address. A history book about the town or region for those new to the area. Book of referrals for local businesses and possibly coupons. A housewarming party, offer to do the cooking. So I can tell you that the only one of those that I've ever done and that I will continue to do because they're awesome is the housewarming party. And I tell my clients also, and obviously it only works for buyers, right? But I tell them when you're ready to do a housewarming party, and so really COVID just really hurt this whole summer for that. But when you're ready, you let me know and I will take care of everything for you. You just give me a list of names and addresses. I will send out your invites. I will get all of the RSVPs for you. I will follow up and find out who's coming. I will send thank yous and I will provide the food. Here are your options for food. And part of the reason I'm doing this, right, is because I get their contact information. I send everything via email. So now I have everybody's email address. So they're friends and family. Then I also go to the housewarming party, you know, for at least an hour. You know, sometimes it might be an entire afternoon, or they might start late afternoon and go into the night. I don't stay for the whole thing. But I go and I meet the people. So they introduce me to their friends and family as this is my realtor, Megan. This is my realtor, Megan. You know, this is the girl who helped us buy our house. You know, this is Megan. I told you about her. She's so awesome. If they are having you host the housewarming party, you're not going to somebody's house who didn't like you or didn't have good things to say about you, right? So, so that's an idea that I absolutely love. And for tokens of appreciation, I'm all about the things that actually last. I can't tell you how many people have told me that they thought it was super cool that their agent left them a bottle of champagne and I don't know, meat and cheese tray or something like that was in the fridge when they moved in. But they don't know who that person was. They think it's the coolest thing. They literally don't know who the person was. So clearly they didn't follow up. Or they'll be like, you know, it's the people with the red sign. Oh, okay. Well, people think Keller Williams have a red sign, and Edina has a red sign, and Counselor has a red sign. So, you know, so I'm all for the things that last. You know, Cutco is one that it's huge because it lasts a lifetime. The knives and stuff, and you can get them with your, you know, all branded with your name. They're spendy. I have often given it's actually a cutting board, but it's made out of glass. And I get a picture of the house. So you can get a picture of the house with your buyers, or not, just you know, but the house when they buy it, and you put that on a glass cutting board, and I think it's like $20 for 20, maybe 25, I forget. So like a big 12 by 15, I think is the size of it, or you can get a smaller one for, you know, a couple dollars less than that. But that's personal, and then I brand it. It has my name and logo and everything on there. And then some of the things that you can do So, lots of people recommend gift cards, and so maybe what their favorite restaurant is, or it's your favorite restaurant, right? And you want to help out the owner, because you know the owner of the restaurant, and the people are new to here, or they've never been to this restaurant. They will use that, and then they won't know anymore, right? Like there's nothing about you that's there anymore, other than that you did something really cool and it's really nice, and a lot of times that's enough. People will remember that. I'm just all for doing things that will last. Gift cards to Home Depot, don't necessarily. So buy them something for the house. If you have a cellar, so obviously if you rent someone a U-Haul, they're going to remember that, because that's a really big deal. Right. So, I mean, like Tyler was saying, that is something that he wants to implement, because it's a big deal. So no one's going to forget that you do that. And then also, like Brittany was talking about pairing with local or buying local, pair with people that whose businesses and appreciate, so that you can try to give them business, which will in turn promote your business. So just always think of that. On a last note, the last thing I want to talk about is just staying in touch. And sometimes it's really hard for people to know how to do that. And you can always, every time you stay in touch, you can ask for a referral, simply in a manner of, if you ever have questions about real estate, call, text, or email me. If you or anyone please keep me in mind if you hear about somebody thinking about housing. It doesn't have to be a who do you know right now waiting for an answer. But some of the ways to keep in touch with people, we've got the 33 touch program and the 8x8s. So, there are postcards, there are phone calls, events. So some of the things that I do is a trick or treat party, which don't get to do this year. But Lori Mangan and I in the past have done where we decorate the office, and then we invite all of our clients and their kids or their grandkids to come in, and they get to trick or treat into the different areas. And that has been like they love it. I mean, the kids absolutely love it, and it's indoors, and we do it the day before Halloween. Can't do it this year because of coronavirus and not having everyone in the office and stuff like that. So, but that is one. Another thing that we do is we buy pies at Thanksgiving. So you know what? If this year or next year comes around and maybe you only have 10 closings, or maybe you only have 5 closings where you liked the people and want to see them again, who knows. But you want to do something like that, you want to put it on Facebook, you want to get the social media, kind of thing. So, but you don't want to take a picture of yourself with just 5 pies and say, I'm giving pies out to all of my clients. Team up with somebody else who's going to do it. And that's another one that Lori Mangan and I do together. So with all of the pies she buys and all of the pies that I buy, and then we put them all together and we take a picture of us individually, so it looks like we have twice as many. And then we put that on Facebook. Also we usually take a picture of my or her car loaded up with all the pies, saying this is what we're doing. For all of your buyers, at the end of every year, so approximately now, by mid-November at the latest, remind your buyers to homestead their house. Make sure that they did that, because they only have by the end of the year to do it, or next year they're going to be paying non-homestead property tax. So just make sure that they got that done. At the beginning of the year, by January, mid-January, send all of your clients, sellers and buyers, their closing disclosure. So they're almost always going to need it for tax purposes. And even if they don't, they're going to appreciate the fact that you thought of them and that you sent it to them. So you get the closing disclosure. It's almost always now in .loop, not .loop. What do we have now? Command. It's almost always in Command. If for some reason it's not there, you can just reach out to the title company and ask them to send you a copy. And then email that out to them and say, hey, just in case you need this for your taxes, here you go. Spring is where I have a harder time coming up with stuff to do. Some of the people in our office have done like some St. Patty's Day stuff. I don't typically do that because it tends to all be centered on drinking. And not that I have a problem with that. And by the way, if you ask anybody in the office, I'm the first one to sign up for happy hour. I'm the first one there, last to go. I love drinking. I'm really good at it. I just don't want to be at an event where, somebody stops in and they just have a shot of whiskey, right? Or they have a beer and they leave. I mean, that's totally fine. But then odds are good I'm going to be drinking the whole time. So I don't want to be where somebody comes in at, it gets done at this hour and they come in half an hour close to the end. And I'm not good at, I can have one. I'm just not good at that. So for me, I guess I don't put drinking and client events together. For me, I don't even like the whole feel of it. So I love it for realtor events and I love it for my personal stuff. Just for me, that one just doesn't work. But by the way, lots of people in our office do it, and they've got stuff where people come in and, they've got different hats and whatever you can wear, and they take your picture and, send you like professional photos and stuff like that. So you can always team up with people in our office who do that. Trying to think of some of the other ways to keep in touch. Oh, and anniversaries. That's the other thing that I always, and depending on my clients and who they are, it's a phone call or a text or an email. So where I stay in touch. Hey, happy anniversary. 3 years ago today, you sold your house. 5 years ago today, you bought a house, whatever it is. So I guess I don't ever send cards for that one, but I put them in my calendar. As soon as somebody closes, I put that in my calendar, like the birthday. And then I put the year. So, I'll put like Megan Hobson, 2018. And then I'll know. I don't have to go back and find when was the closing or how many years has it been. Every year when it pops up, I know it was 2018. So, that's 2 years ago, next year, 3 years ago, etc. So it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter what you do. The most important thing is that you do something. Just stay in touch, however you do it. And phone calls are amazing. So, mail works, events work. Just stay in touch and friend people on Facebook. They put a picture of their family. You say awesome, etc. So that is pretty much everything that you need to know on the closing the deal, getting the deal closed, and going forward. Do you guys have any questions for me or anything that you want me to talk more about? We're good? Is everybody okay with being done early? Okay. Well, you guys enjoy the rest of your day. You only have one more class of Ignite and then you graduate. So that's awesome. And thank you guys so much for spending your morning with me and, listening to me ramble. I can't wait till we're in the office and I actually get to meet people in person again. So have a great rest of your day. And if you do think of questions or anything else that comes up later that you want to know about, just send me an email, shoot me a text, give me a call.
Thank you, Megan.
Right. You guys have a good day. See you later.
Thanks.